Welcome along, my name is Ben, and in this video I'm going to show you how to draw and make a Sonic the Hedgehog puppet out of a single sheet of paper. Now, on this channel I design, create and show you how to make paper-based working replicas of beloved Muppets, puppets, characters and creatures. Now, they can be pretty complex to make, so in this series I'm keeping it simple and I'm going to show you how you can bring to life your favourite characters and creatures using a single sheet of paper. Now, the basis for creating all of the paper puppets in this series is my printable folding template kit, which you can grab for a small one-off payment from my online store and then use again and again and again to create your own collection of paper puppets. So let's get into it. This is how to draw and make a Sonic the Hedgehog puppet out of a single sheet of paper. So here we're using template 5 of the 9 available in my puppet building kit. The first thing we do is to cut the sheet in half. We're going to save the other half for the body and then trim around the face folding template section that we're about to use. This diagonal line based cross section grid that I'm adding will help as a spatial reference for the facial proportions if you're giving it a go at home. We start here with the nose, a small oval shape, pretty much in the centre of this lower triangular area. These curved lines bisecting the grid will become the muzzle area of his face. This line going down here is the beginning of his furrowed brow. As we continue with these lines, we're creating his eyes. Again, hopefully the grid makes it easier for you to more or less get the proportions right if following along. At this stage, I'm not too bothered about accuracy as we're working with pencil and we can just keep reworking if needs be until we're happy to commit to the final lines with the biro later on. As we add the irises and the mouth, I just want to point out what you can probably see is that I'm pretty much working with short loops and longer curved and straight lines. There isn't anything particularly complicated about it. Now, onto the eyebrows here. This one goes high and the other one goes low, giving him that slightly roguish look. These little lines down here are going to be the ends of his quills. Now we're looking at his mouth. You can see I've added a few dots to the template line that I'm aiming at, just so I can make sure that my mouth outline crosses through where I want it to go. Then we add a couple of curves for the tongue, highlights to the nose, pupils and highlights to the eyes, and finally his chin at the bottom. That's all we need for his face, so then we're going to ink in the lines with a black biro pen. This is the final chance to rectify any lines you're not quite happy with. Once done, we rub out the pencil marks, always waiting for the ink to dry. So we're left with a nice solid, clean design ready to be coloured in. I'll share the colours I'm using in the video description and hopefully it's clear which areas you need to colour in and which you can leave blank. Then I've gone over the lines with a slightly thicker black marker and I've added some white highlights as well. Next we cut around these little quills at the bottom here and there's a little bit of excess paper to get rid of. And then we're on to the folding. I always like to start with the central fold. I'm not going to show you in great detail here because you can see in the video that comes with my puppet building kit how to fold each of the templates step by step. But effectively, this is how we create the semi-three-dimensionality of his face and his ability to open and close his mouth. You can see it all coming together now. We just pull this back to create the chin, then we fold over these sections at the top of the head, which we pre-scored at the beginning. These little triangular areas on the left and right that we didn't colour in are going to be glued front and back and then folded in place. And that gives us the shape of the face. And then we're on to the other half of the sheet of paper that we left aside earlier. Again, we're going to mark out a rectangular grid with a diagonal cross section. For an A4 sheet, this should be the full width across by 18 centimetres down. For a letter size sheet, it should be the full width across by about 17 centimetres down. For the body, I decided to be a bit more free and loose with my pencil work at the beginning. Starting with these loose oval shapes, we can lock in the rough proportions and then we can iterate and refine from there. Plus, it takes away the stress of trying to get it perfect perfect first time. Double plus, if you're drawing along, you still have the grids as a spatial reference. These diagonal straight lines are marking out his legs. These bottom ovals are going to be the tops of his socks. Then we're going to work on the shoes, which are going to reach down into the bottom corners on both sides. Again, we're just working with nice easy curved lines, nothing too complicated. We're just taking it literally line by line. These top bits here are going to be his arms. Again, don't worry about getting it perfect because with pencil we can rub it out and rework it as necessary. Then onto the tops of his gloves here, which like the socks are two overlapping oval shapes. And then we can build up his hands with these individual knuckles and just all small curved lines. Then it's going to be almost identical on the other side with the other hand, but just a mirror image. A quick readjustment for the legs. Again, feel free to readjust whatever is needed. And now we've got the rough shape, we're going to just mark it out in a bit more detail. To be honest, you could firm it all up with your biro now, but it can be quite useful to get a slightly sharper, truer version with the pencil at this stage, especially if you're worried about having to make big adjustments with the biro. Now, as regulars to my channel may know, this isn't my first Sonic the Hedgehog puppet. I created a fully 3D one from about 20 odd sheets of paper a while back. In fact, the YouTube short of that puppet build is by far and away my most viewed video, so if you haven't, do check it out. The two things I won't live down from that video are that I gave him teeth, which people did not like, and that I forgot to give him a tail and two of his back spines at the very bottom. So this one definitely doesn't have any teeth, although when it comes to the tail you're going to have to imagine because it's a front arm puppet, but you know, in my head it's there. Here we're just building up the detail of his trainers. And some final touches to his arms, which you of course may well not need to make. Here we're marking out his ears, starting with some basic triangular shapes and then rounding them out as necessary and building it up until we get the size and shape that we want. Obviously both ears need to be a similar size and shape and fit on the page as well, and that's part of the fun for me, working out how to best use the space and make sure we can get everything fitted in without having to resort to another sheet of paper. These lines that we're creating at the top, little sort of shark fins almost, will be added onto the head. They're going to be little extra quills that you'll see at the side of his head. And that's the last bit of detail. Then we ink it all in with the biro. Rub out the pencil work and then fill in the colours. I've also redrawn over all the lines with a slightly thicker black pen to really help it pop before cutting it out. Here we score the ears and then we fold them over and they're going to be glued on top of the head. As mentioned, the little shark fin style bits are going to be glued in at the sides of the head to represent more of his quills. Then at the back, we glue on this little finger loop to help us open and close the mouth. Finally, I scored around the chin area to help fold the part below it back more easily. You can fold that in, and then we're going to glue the top of the neck on here at the front. And then turn it over to the back. Fold and glue the remaining part of the body tab onto the lower fold of the head section, and then unfolding that tab we glue any remaining part of the body tab onto the other side of it. Then we just have to put pressure on it for about a minute until it dries and bonds. And that's it. That's how to make a Sonic the Hedgehog puppet out of a single sheet of paper. And if you look in the top right corner, there's a playlist of all the other puppets that you can make using my paper puppet building kit.